Hello, everyone, and happy Thursday. I think it is. Nick Marro here with Smitty. As always, to help you break down tonight's NBA DFS main slates on both DraftKings and FanDuel. Here with Occupy Fantasy. As always, please like the video, subscribe to the channel. Helps us get more free content like this out to you on a regular basis. Smitty took down a few single entries last night. That really sharp Brandon Williams call on stream. I was watching you guys. Dinwiddie pretty much got there, but man, that little bit of extra salary getting to Williams definitely helped. But kudos to you, man. Any big reflections on last night? Definitely feels like you're getting hot again.
Yeah, it was a pretty good night overall. I played a lot of Brandon Williams. He was pretty much in everything, and then Peyton Pritchard. I like Peyton Pritchard too, so we get to play him again tonight. So should be a fun one.
Yeah, Pritchard's been a guy for all of us this year. I think one of my only two takedowns I had all year had Pritchard in it, and yeah, he's been like a beast for Occupy. So hopefully tonight he can keep it up. Quick shouts out to the chat. Only 5 games tonight, so we should be able to get to all the comments, guys. So feel free to get questions in. Ben Jizzy shouts out. Carmen, as always, Unicorn. We got Amari in here as well. Appreciate you guys always tuning in. Carmen here again saying sup, and Swerve saying hit them likes, run it up. Definitely would love that. Shouts out Swerve. Appreciate everyone in here as always. But yeah, slate starts at 7 p.m. tonight. Only 5 games, I believe. Or wait, no, it's 6. DK cut off the 10 o'clock. Does FanDuel have the 10? Do you know?
Yeah,
They
I
may
think
have
they
cut it
both
too.
have them.
I thought they. Let me double check this real quick. It's obviously worth it. Yeah, FanDuel has it. I think DK. Wait, I have DK open. We can take a look here. Uh, yeah, okay. Both slates have all the games, so that's good. At least we're consistent. 2 hour break though, going into that late game. So hopefully no news between New York and LA that we're waiting on. I think Luke and LeBron are questionable as always, but we'll get to that game in a bit. First, we have the Bulls taking on the Magic. For Chicago, no Ao. We got Giddy now available. He was questionable all day. Kevin Herter as well will be in and available. Patrick Williams, few people thought he'd be back tonight. He's still out. No Lonzo Ball or Nikola Vucevic either. Pulling up Chicago here, Giddy's in and available. He's kind of been the guy for this team. Obviously, not a great matchup against Orlando. Nobody's playing him, though. I do understand it. The best value on the slate is going to be a guard. We also have Derek White. We got Luka in the late game. There's so many good guards on this slate. I understand why he's not very popular. But at the same time, he actually does well in some of these slower games, I find. With a little bit of extra usage, he is the type of tournament play I do think I want to get some exposure to. Other than him, I mean, Zach Collins has been playing pretty well. Probably not going to get to Bazelis. I'm seeing a few sites that have Herter actually projected to start at the wing tonight. If he does, I do like him as a value play. Again, nobody getting to this team except for Trey Jones over on FanDuel. I think people are just kind of looking at the game logs after the game he had last time out. But Bulls too healthy for me to get to Trey tonight. I'm a little bit interested in some of these Bulls, though, Smitty. I kind of like Herter and Giddy. Probably won't get to much else. I can see maybe playing Collins as a power forward on FanDuel, but a little bit surprised. I know the matchup is terrible, but pretty close spread here. Kind of surprised this team's not trying any ownership at all. Are you getting to any of these Bulls?
Yeah, like you mentioned with Herder, I kind of expect him to start too, and I'm getting to Herder right now as a value play. I don't really love locking it in the first game, but
Yeah.
I think he's going to come in under own, so I still like it. And then, like you mentioned, Giddy, I think Giddy he still has a ceiling. I mean, this is pretty much his team, and even in a slow paced matchup, I think he's pretty good. And then Zach Collins, Jalen Smith, both of them are in play. Neither a priority, but this team looks like a pretty good team to take some GPP shots on.
Yeah, I mean, Giddy has had decent games against Orlando dating back to when he used to get subbed out when they still had Zach Levine. But yeah, I'm totally fine getting to him again. Low ownership, but to your point, man, it's always tough to kind of lock up too many of these spots in these early games, knowing we're probably going to get some news to go our way throughout the evening. Over on the Orlando side, they actually have their starting lineup out already, pretty much standard and as expected. Cole Anthony's in and available. Still no Mo Wagner. Jalen Suggs is going to be out for the season. So pretty much par for the course as far as the Magic go. Paulo Banchero coming off one of the best games of his career, 73.5 fantasy points exactly on both sites. 8 assists in that game, 41 real points, 8 rebounds, 4 steals, and a block. Not going to replicate that performance here, obviously, that he had against Toronto. But at the same time, sub 9K, I don't know that he necessarily needs to hit value. But opposite of the Bulls, he is very popular. So him and Franz both getting a lot of ownership. I understand it. I do think Paulo's back to kind of being the alpha in this offense. We saw it kind of going back and forth for a while, but until the pricing discrepancy is a little bit wider, I do favor Paulo. The model has him 1 point higher in terms of OF index. Also seeing some love going to Cole Anthony and Wendell Carter Jr. I don't mind Wendell Carter. He had a pretty bad game against Toronto. At the same time, one of the cheap centers with upside tonight again. I just don't know that I necessarily want to lock in that position. The field is getting there. He was in really bad foul trouble last game, though, which is why he had that dud of a game. I wouldn't look too deeply into that. I like Paulo. I like Carter here. Probably won't get to as much Franz or Cole Anthony, but obviously a great paced up matchup against a pretty soft defense. How are you handling the Magic?
Yeah, it's mainly Palo and Franz for me. Like you said, getting a lot more Palo right now, almost double what I am Franz, and I
Nice.
prefer it that way. I just think, like you said, he's been playing better. He's kind of the alpha of this team, and he's kind of showing that here lately. He just does a little bit more of everything too. So I like getting to Palo, and then Cole Anthony is a GPP shot. I don't hate it. I'm half his ownership right now. Just kind of a mid-range guard, but we have Peyton Pritchard, so I guess he could be a pivot off of that.
Yeah, we got Pritchard. We're about to talk about that game. A few others really good ones. But yeah, Cole Anthony, he's flashed that upside. He's pretty inconsistent, but just knowing that he has it on a limited slate, 10 to 12% actually isn't that high of an ownership. Taking a look at chat here. Um, can you rank the top three teams to get to today from Jose directly to you? That's kind of a tough question, but you want to take a shot at it?
Yeah, that's tough. I know the Pacers, Atlanta. Let me see what other teams.
I mean, Boston's so thin. I'd imagine they're
Yeah, it's them three. Um, Pacers are probably the more of the, and Atlanta are probably more GPP type
Mhm.
ownerships. But that's a game I really like, and I think it's under owned. So probably those three teams.
Nice, man. Yeah, and Jose right there with you. Boston, Philly, Indiana, Atlanta. And Bulls in Orlando. Yes, Jose. I mean, that's like half the teams on the slate. But yeah, we're on a lot of the same page here. Landon Oakley, Terry Rozier. Yeah, man. I saw a clip of him. Like, it looked like he turned the ball over on purpose. Like, he's been investigated for like point shaving and all this crap. And usually, I think people who get too deep into conspiracies, like, not a fan of that. But some of the clips I've seen recently of him, maybe the mafia has his number. Who knows? Um, one more comment here from Power. Always appreciate you breaking in the news so I don't have to look at Twitter, man. Jonathan Isaac is out. So, if anything, that maybe secures minutes for Carter. Maybe Gogan gets a little bit extra run. We did see Isaac, I think, close when Carter was in foul trouble that last game, so that is notable. Not that we were going to play Isaac, but it does make me feel a little bit better about Carter. Um, Next game here, very interesting. We got the Sixers taking on the Celtics. We'll start on the Philadelphia side of things. Two games actually lock at 7:30, as is Golden State and the Nets. But obviously Embiid's out. No Paul George, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, Tyrese Maxey, McCain's obviously out as well. Justin Edwards is questionable. Not that he's super significant, but yeah, man, pretty interesting spot here. So Quentin Grimes projected to get the start at the point. We're going to talk about a value play in a minute, though. I think we both will really like both him and Kelly Oubre. That being Grimes look excellent in terms of their upside. As far as the model goes, it really doesn't love their OF index rating in terms of upside. I think it's kind of factoring in this Boston matchup, but we got to keep in mind a lot of the key pieces for Boston, especially on the defensive end. No Horford, no Drew Holiday. It's not really the same matchup that they're usually going to be up against when they play this team. So I do like Oubre. I do like Grimes. Those are probably my two favorites here. Drummond's been kind of tough to project. He obviously has massive upside, but the minutes are going to be inconsistent with him. Boston obviously could play a little bit smaller than usual here with KP and Horford out. So I don't mind taking shots on Drummond as a tournament play. Pretty risky though. I think Oubre and Grimes are kind of borderline core. But the guy I really want to talk about is Jarrett Butler. Coming off the bench, he did play 24 minutes against Minnesota. Obviously, with no Lowry, no Maxey, no George, you have to think this guy gets into the rotation. Downton only played 10, which tells me maybe Butler has surpassed him on the depth chart. The one thing that I don't feel great about, though, necessarily is the ownership. So even back with Washington, when their guards were out, Jared Butler was a guy I was trying to get to. We only have him for 20 minutes here. He's not rating as the top value. He's second behind Edwards, but I do think I want to mix in some Jared Butler tonight, man. He's just kind of tough to project, and it stinks that the field is getting there because I was kind of hoping we'd be ahead of the curve on this one. But yeah, man, how are you handling Philly? And particularly, how are you handling Jared Butler? Likely coming off the bench, but I think he's going to be appealing here regardless.
Yeah, currently I'm overweight to Butler. I think there's a
Nice.
chance maybe he even starts, but even in 20 minutes, he looks like a solid enough DK value. But the upside for more, I think, is what's worth playing him. And he's so good fantasy points per minute that if he played 25, 26 minutes, like you're probably going to need him. So I think he's a really good play. It's mainly him and Grimes for me, and then all the rest are kind of GPP plays. Yabusele looks pretty decent, just kind of fills lineups, and then Drummond looks fine too, assuming they both start together. Kelly Oubre is probably a little underowned on
Mhm.
DraftKings, where he's only 6,200. I don't mind taking shots on Oubre, and then the rest of this team is like GPP plays that I wouldn't care if they showed up in lineups. Currently, I'm getting Lonnie Walker the most out of this like bench unit aside
Mhm.
from Butler. But I think Doughton and Council both could be in play if you think this game blows out. Like I probably wouldn't play them with Tatum unless you think he does everything. But um, I don't know. There's some game theory to it.
Yeah, I mean Boston is on a back to back. Obviously, they are thin. I know the spread last I checked was 13 points, which kind of tells me Tatum will be in here. But I could see this game being competitive. I do want to highlight though. I'm on Grimes as well, man. He's probably my favorite sixer here. But the model loves Oubre. Almost two full OF index points higher. Half the ownership on both sites. I think Oubre might be the best tournament play if we're going by the data. As much as I like Grimes, I do think Kelly's maybe getting overlooked. And it's kind of a follow up question: would you play those two together? And are you setting any rules for Philly? I know you said you like some Lonnie Walker. I kind of like him as a pivot off of Butler, but I don't know that they could both get there necessarily. It's kind of tricky. But how are you handling some of these like if thens for Philly? I do like Oubre a lot.
Yeah. Currently, I don't have any rules for them. I just have a max of three. Like, I wouldn't want any more than three of them. But I think they're all kind of fine. Maybe you could mess with the bench a little bit. But currently, I'm not doing anything with rules.
Nice. Yeah, I think we have enough value. Even if you're just crunching lineups, you shouldn't get like four or five of these guys in a lineup. That'd be pretty surprising. Over on the Boston side of things, though, yeah, Pritchard last night, career game, uh, major front runner for the sixth man of the year. Not that he wasn't already, but no Jalen Brown tonight, who did play last night. Hauser's questionable. Still waiting on that one, as is Jason Tatum. But we already know no Drew, nor Horford, no KP. Projected starting lineup I'm looking right now has Cornette and Nimus Keita in it, which is kind of insane. Pretty confident Pritchard will still come off the bench, but regardless, he's going to be one of the best plays on the slate, even on the back to back. Totally fine going there. Again, he's just too cheap. Even if he doesn't replicate last night or even come close, he can score 15 less real points and he's still crushing value. So to me, Pritchard's really good chalk, even playing 42 minutes last night. I know there's a little bit of fear there, but at the same time, we have him for 34. They're pretty thin in the backcourt. Excuse me. Derek White as well, obviously more expensive. Played a ton of minutes last night. No issues going back to him. Those are my two favorites here. If Tatum is out, if Tatum is in, I think it's just all three that I really really like. The front court scares me. I'm scared to get to Keita. I'm scared to get to Cornette. I think Cornette is the better play of the two, but at the same time, I don't know that I want to pay down at center, especially if we're paying down at guard aggressively. We already have Butler. We already have Pritchard. Like, do I really want to punt on these Boston centers? They have upside, sure. Kind of tricky though. My gut says Tatum is in. I think he's healthy. He just got the rest last night. They're resting Brown tonight again on the back to back. Fine getting to these guards. Other than that, I think it's just Tatum for me, though. I think I'm going to try to get away from these bigs. How are you handling Boston? I know the model does like Cornette.
Yeah. There's so many Q tags up in the air. It's kind of hard right now, but either way, I think Pritchard's a really good play. 5,500 is just too cheap for the minutes that he'll play. He'll close either way. So I think Pritchard's the best play from here. And then Hauser, I don't mind getting to him on DK as a value if he's in. And then, like you mentioned, Cornette, I'd rather get there than Keita. Seems like a pretty solid play. FanDuel, he has stock upside, so always a pretty good option there. But you only get one center, so you kind of need him to do it. And then Derek White, pretty insane ownership on FanDuel, but I still think he's pretty good. I mean, they kind of just have to play him.
Yeah, I mean, it's actually come down a bit, but if we're sorting this entire slate by OF index, Derek White is ranking ahead of guys like Sengun, Halliburton, Banchero, Brunson. So the model absolutely loves Derek White today, and that is with Tatum in. And Tatum himself is actually the top OF index play on the entire slate. So again, have to like Boston here. And I know the spread's wide, but I do think this game could be relatively competitive. Again, Boston on a back to back. Philly missing some key pieces, but they do have some of their depth available. So really important game here. Going to wait on that news. There's a good chance we get it before the stream ends. If not, Smitty here is in Discord tonight on double duty, so all the more reason to make sure you're signed up and in there. Let's take a quick look at chat before we get to the next game here. How much ownership is Butler getting? I think around 35%, Jose. I just had this pulled up. 36 on DK, 31 on FanDuel last week. Updated. I think that makes sense. I don't think he's going to start, like I said, but I don't think it matters. If he does, he's going to be like 60 to 70%. Beantown asking Craig if Hauser is out. It's kind of a
No.
no for me. He's cheap enough that he could get there. It's just not a guy who takes many shots. And if they're not going to be involved on offense, it's just tough for them to produce in fantasy. If Craig were to start, Smitty, assuming Hauser would be out for that scenario to kind of take place, would you be getting to him at all?
No, no, I wouldn't
Okay.
play him. We
Yeah.
did get the news. Hauser's out and Tatum's in.
Tatum's in, Hauser's out. Okay, so yeah, there is a good chance Craig starts now. I do think we're going to see Cornette and Kada. Um, I love Tatum though, and the model does as well. He's actually the top pay up on the entire slate, so do not be shy in loading up on Boston. Maybe you only want two of the three, Pritchard, White, Tatum, but I think all three are excellent, and we saw last night they could certainly get there in terms of upside. Let's see here. So let's move into the next game now. We have so the injury reports in an opposite order of my projected lineup. So just want to make sure I get this right. We get the Pacers taking on the Hawks. Massive, massive total here. 248 and a half points. Pretty tight spread as well. Indiana in Atlanta. Starting with the Pacers. Scrolling. We have Halliburton questionable. That's news to me. I missed that earlier. Mathurin questionable. I think the thought is he'll be back in and available tonight. Um, Before I dig into this, Smitty, did you like? Do you think Halliburton plays here? I didn't even know he was questionable.
Um, I don't know. Indiana's been playing pretty decent, and they're only 1 point favorites here, which kind of gives me some concern. But I don't know. I'm not sure what to do with him.
Yeah, I mean they were off yesterday. I think he's going to be good to go. He's been playing excellent. It's listed as a hip flexor slash strain. So something to keep an eye on. Personally, I think he's going to be in. The spread is tight, but they are on the road, so maybe that's why. But if he's out, obviously we're going to be getting to a lot of Nemhard, maybe some TJ McConnell. For now, let's just kind of assume he's in. I think Hallie looks great here. The price is finally up where he's priced with the other top guards that are available, the Trey Youngs, the Steph Currys, the Jalen Brunsons of the world. But he's justified that more often than not. I was totally wrong on Nemhard the other day. He was like 40% owned. I was like, can this guy really kill me if I don't play him? And he kind of did. So I get it. If you want to go back there, he's much lower owned tonight. The big reason for that is Matherin's probably going to be back. That being said, though, Matherin likely to come off the bench. I don't think it affects Nemhard as much as maybe people are thinking. I still got him projected for 30 minutes. I actually like him now, and it's funny that he's priced a little bit more than last time because he is much lower owned again. Ownership is really everything in DFS in tournaments, so kind of try to zig here as the field zags, but he's priced the same as Pritchard, so I don't know that I really get there much. Turner looks fine. I do like Siakam, but again, I think Halliburton's the one guy I'm most interested in. A lot of good guards on this slate. I definitely want exposure to this team, though. Really good matchup here against Atlanta. Smitty, how are you handling the Pacers?
Yeah, I think they're pretty underowned overall. Right now, I'm currently double the field on Miles Turner, and I'm pretty comfortable with that. I think he's a pretty good play, and I'm normally not on Turner, but this hot total game going against Atlanta, I think he's in a really good spot. And then Siakam, I think, is also a pretty good play along with Halliburton. So them three are the ones I'm getting to the most. I think they're all really good. And then Nimhard, like you mentioned, I'm double the field on Nimhard. I prefer Matherin to be out, but I don't think that's everything. And
Mhm.
then also, it's just if Halliburton actually sits, then we have like infinite value on this slate.
Yeah, I mean, if he sits, then TJ McConnell is going to look excellent. The thing with McConnell is like his minutes never get too insane, even when he starts. And even if Halliburton's out, he could come off the bench, but his point per minute's ridiculous when he's running the point. So he would be someone you'd want to get exposure to. Definitely keep an eye on that piece of news. Aaron Naismith likely to start over Mathurin again. His minutes have been up. You could kind of mix him in as a last piece in. The FanDuel price feels a little bit inflated though, so not crazy about Nemhard, but yeah, it's like no play's really standing out in a big way, but just the game environment's so appealing. It's tough not to want some pieces of that one. Over on the other side of things, we have Atlanta here. Obviously, no Jalen Johnson, Vit Krejci, Larry Nance still out. Trey Young was on the injury report, but listed as probable. He should be good to go here. Definitely a team I want to get to. Kongwu continues to be underpriced on DK. We have him capped around 30 minutes. I think he looks fine. One of my favorite centers. Dyson Daniels been really solid. Definitely more expensive on FanDuel, but you're getting extra points for steals. I think the price difference is justified. I like him on both sites. And if you're not getting to Daniels, I prefer playing Trey Young in lineups without him. He is lower owned. He hasn't been as consistent as some of these other expensive guards, but the ceiling's definitely there. It's tough to get low ownership on that type of upside on a 6-game slate. So I don't mind mixing him in. And everyone's favorite guy to hate or love has been Karis LeVert, coming off his best game, or one of his best games as a Hawk. He's been playing excellent off the bench. Fine getting to him. Risa Shea looks okay. Jordas Niang getting a lot of love too. Kind of surprisingly coming off the bench, but whenever I've been talking about this team lately, I'm like, I like these guys. I just don't know night to night who's going to be. I think Levert might actually be the safest. Ricochet and Niang are probably worth mixing in. I want Terrence Mann to be a thing. He really hasn't been, even though he's pushing 30 minutes. But more than anything, probably just a Kongwu and Daniels for me. Maybe a little bit of Levert. Smitty, how are you handling the Hawks?
Yeah, like I mentioned, I like this game, so I like getting to the Hawks as well. I think Okongwu and Daniels are the priorities for me, especially on DraftKings. But I like mixing in Ricochet, Niang, and Levert. I think all three of them are pretty solid. Um, and we did just get Hallie out and Matherin out. Now that we've
Yeah,
talked about that team, but
Nemhard.
anyways, I think Ricochet is a pretty good value option. His ownership probably comes in lower even now with that news.
Yeah, so you just mentioned it. Halliburton and Mathurin both going to be out tonight, so definitely read that one wrong. They're both out, which means Nemhard probably going to get the start at point. Thinking there's a chance we see Obi Toppin slide into the starting lineup. I'm sitting here kind of like looking at this. Maybe it's Ben Shepherd. I know they've gone to him at the two at times. What's your first kind of instinct here with Indy? To me, I want to definitely get a lot more Nemhard now. I do think McConnell is still a solid play coming off the bench. There is a world where he starts. I don't think he does. It's very rare that that's the case. But yeah, it probably helps Siakam a little bit as well. But what's your first kind of instincts here on how you're going to handle the Pacers with this news?
Now, my first thought with it is just Nimhard. I think Nimhard becomes one of the better plays on the slate by far. Like him
Yeah.
and Pritchard are probably the two best plays on the slate. And then just everyone gets better. Like Siakam's going to have more usage, Miles Turner, and then TJ McConnell on DraftKings where he's 3,900. It's going to look better for sure, too.
Yeah. Do you think they start topping? Or, I mean, they could go big. Like, Gouye's been starting at the four for the Hawks. He doesn't play many minutes, or they could go to Shepard. Like I said, I don't think it's going to be McConnell. Do you have a kind
Yeah.
of gut on the starting lineup?
Yeah, I would say Shepard or Toppin. I kind of lean Shepard, but
Yeah,
I don't know.
I think that makes more sense for the spacing. But whoever it is going to be viable. Obviously, Toppin has flashed much higher upside than Shepard, so extra minutes for him are going to matter. We will refresh this before we do the dummy build, so we'll talk through Indy a little bit more. But definitely a spot we want to get to now. Definitely more Nemhard than anything. But let's move right into the next game. Then we'll get back to chat. We got the Nets taking on the Warriors. Yeah, man, pretty widespread here. The Nets have been competitive to the point of frustration as a Nets fan. Again, I know I'm redundant, kind of hoping they would tank this year. Cam Thomas is back, though. We have him projected for 28 minutes. He was a really solid play the other night, as we discussed on FanDuel. 25 minutes, got to 35 fantasy points, so that's good to see. The issue now, though, is his price is up. He's probably only going to play a handful more minutes tonight, and D'Angelo Russell is back. So they're going to be playing next to each other a lot. I still think Cam Thomas is going to lead the team in usage, but it's enough for me to come off of D'Lo a little bit. At the same time, I mean, the price on DK is egregious. If we didn't have Nemhard and Pritchard, I'd probably sit here and recommend D'Lo as a play, but we do, so I won't. Cam Johnson looks okay. Forward, one of the thinner positions on tonight's slate. He might be the one guy I have some interest in. And Nick Claxton has flashed decent upside. Pretty inconsistent minutes at the same time. I do think he'll be on the floor for 30 here. We have him for 28.5. He looks okay in the model. I'm not really excited to get to any Nets. I do think Cam Thomas is upside. I just don't think he's really necessary on the slate. D'Lo's price on DK feels wrong, but again, we have even more incorrectly priced guards, so it's just tough for me to get to the Nets, maybe other than Cam Johnson. But Smitty, how are you handling Brooklyn?
Yeah, definitely the least interesting game on this slate. I'm not really getting to Brooklyn a whole lot. I think I don't mind mixing Claxton in as a center. Center's not amazing today, so I think someone like Claxton, he goes out there and gets you 40. That'd be pretty good on the slate. So I think Claxton and then D'Lo or Cam Thomas are GPP plays that have high ceilings. They probably don't hit them very often, but they're not owned very much. So I think they're pretty good plays to mix in.
Yeah, I mean, I always prefer Cam because of how aggressive he is. He's pushing 40% usage in his first two games back. But again, with the minutes cap at 6,200, it's kind of tough to get to. On the Golden State side, obviously, we have some blowout concern. I mean, Curry looks fine. Definitely under owned for his upside. He's been playing really well lately. The one guy drawing ownership, actually, there's two, but Pods is getting a lot of love here. I think he's underpriced on DK. I was getting to him earlier in some of my dummy builds, but now with Demar being shooting guard eligible, I don't know that I'm there as aggressively. Draymond looks pretty solid. He's actually been as consistent as he's ever been, pretty much over 30 fantasy points on a night to night basis. So in cash games, really smaller single entry, I don't mind him. At the same time, I mean, I don't know. The Nets defense isn't great, but they do kind of play slower than many might expect. I don't know, man. I don't mind taking a few shots on Curry. I think Pause and Green are a little bit interesting. Maybe Moody is like a last piece in, but not much love for me from Golden State. How about you?
Yeah, that's kind of where I'm at too. Not a very interesting team to get to. It's my lowest exposed game. I don't mind shots on like a Dre or Pods. That's pretty much it.
Yeah, yep, I'm with you, man. And again, just one of the healthier teams on the slate. Usually that means they're kind of priced appropriately. Not a ton of meat on the bone in terms of upside. Let's take a look at the chat here. So Tatum in, he's been questionable all day. Anthony and Unicorn. Um, Definitely you're just Yang for me, Jose. Torrey Craig or Yang for you, Smitty.
Niang.
Yeah. Not going to pull up the news on indie guys, but appreciate you dropping that in chat. McConnell from Demetrius. Yeah, we like him, and he's probably going to come off the bench. I do think he's probably capped around 22 minutes. It'll be interesting to see what the model has, but we'll check that out in a minute. He's saying, "What's up? Appreciate you being here. Is it safe to play Grimes and Oubre together, or are they better as pivots?" I personally think it's fine. Again, they're going to demand a lot of usage. Smitty, would you play them both in the same lineup?
Yeah, I would. It's pretty much their team.
Yeah, especially if you're playing a bunch of Boston, probably looks good to maybe have a little run back there. Pritchard or McConnell, definitely still Pritchard for me, Jose. Again, with McConnell, he's going to be a great play here. It's just he's coming off the bench and his minutes are limited even with some of these guys out. I still want to get to him. I'd honestly have both in most of my lineups, but Smitty, how are you handling this one?
Yeah, definitely Pritchard still.
Yeah. Power on the same page as us in terms of that projected lineup. Going a little bit smaller with Shepard. I think that's what we're going to see. McManus here with the hot take. D White going to dud tonight. Maybe, man. I mean, shooters on back to backs. People used to kind of say that was a thing. It could be. He played a ton of minutes shooting the lights out of the ball. If his legs are tired, maybe that doesn't go well. But Philly's defense without all these guys is pretty bad. White or Dyson Daniels, this is a tougher one. I think the model definitely favors White, Jose. I think that's going to have to be my lean. Smitty, would you be taking any Daniels over White?
That's tough. I probably lean White though.
Yeah. Parrish, to me, Toppin's kind of boomer bust. I do think he sees a few extra minutes here. Can't really guarantee it, though. Thomas Bryant's been getting some run lately, which has cut into him a bit. Smitty, any takes on Toppin, whether or not he starts? I'm guessing we answer this question assuming he doesn't.
Yeah, I think he's fine. Someone you can mix in, but definitely not a priority.
Yep. And B-Town mentioned Herder, and again, if he starts, I do think he's a good play. Obviously, scoring dependent, so the floor is low, but he's been pretty hot. Moving into the 8 o'clock window now. Just a couple games left, guys, making pretty good timing. Here today, we get the Houston Rockets taking on the New Orleans Pelicans. 231.5 point total, pretty healthy. Over on the Rockets side, no Fred VanVleet. Other than that, it's just G Leaguers. So one of the healthier teams. But with Van Fleet out, we have seen a little bit of boost to some of these other starters. Sengun looks fine to me. To your point earlier, Smitty, just not the best slate for centers. I think we're looking at great value at all these other positions now. So Sengun to me, someone who's underowned. Highest OF index on this team. I do like getting to him. Eamon Thompson, the field soured on him a little bit. I'm fine still getting to him. I think he's a little bit overpriced, but at the same time, on a small slate like this, just a raw point upside of him makes him appealing. Fine with Jalen Green. Smith and Eason are tough, man. I think night to night, one of them's going to go off. On FanDuel, where Smith's way cheaper than Eason, I think he's the much better play. On DK, where they're priced similarly, I'd probably rather get to Eason. I do think Smith's going to continue to get the starts, but we've seen Eason be the better point per minute producer. I think you get to either. Personally, wouldn't play them in the same lineup. And then everyone's favorite player to hate, Dylan Brooks, fine is kind of the last piece in. But I think my favorite play here by far is Sengun. I'm surprised he's not more popular, especially on DK, given all the value we have. But Smitty, how are you handling Houston?
Yep, that's exactly where I'm at. I think Sengun's a really good GPP play today. He got even better with the Halliburton news, just more value to let you pay up at center, and he's one of the better spend ups at center. So I think he's a pretty good play today. And then just kind of GPP plays on the rest of the team. I like Jalen Green more before the Halley news, but now he's kind of just okay. Someone I'll probably be a little overweight to, but and then also Tari Eason's okay. Jabari on FanDuel is probably too cheap. His floor is pretty low, but he's been playing pretty well. And if he closes, it's too cheap for him.
Yeah, I agree. Even in limited minutes, we saw this dating back to last season. He can go off night to night. Over on the New Orleans side of things, Brandon Boston's out. Still no Herbert Jones. Obviously, DeJounte Murray is out as well. So a little bit healthier than usual are the Pelicans at the same time, still missing a lot of key pieces. Zion's minutes, we're still projecting him around 29. Still think he's a good play. If I'm choosing between him and Sengun, it's probably Sengun. At the same time, I do think Zion is underowned. So I do want to get some shares of him. Definitely has better than 50-point upside, even in limited minutes. Trey Murphy's been pretty consistent. Surprised he's not getting more love. Not a great matchup here. Pushing 10 on the OF index scale. I think he's fine. Kelly O coming off a dud, I think, but he's probably going to start again here. His price has come up. Not super interested in him, but on FanDuel, where you can play him at power forward, I can see getting to him over there. 5,900 on DK. No one's playing him, so fine. But at the same time, I mean, he's going to be inconsistent. He's got the upside. He's kind of similar to Eason, but like a worse player. So I'd probably just rather go to Eason. Yves Misi, another guy, usually pops in the model. Super inconsistent in terms of his minutes, though. Just not a great spot for him here, in my opinion. I like Zion a lot. I'll mix in some McCollum and Murphy. Not much interest for me in the value, though. But how are you handling the Pels?
Yeah, it's mainly just Zion for me. I don't mind getting to a little bit of Murphy. And then I think Kelly Olynyk on FanDuel is an okay GPP play with the power forward eligibility.
Nice. Yeah, sounds like we're perfectly aligned on that. Let me ask you one more though. Your boy Jordan Hawkins with Brandon Boston out. Any love for him? I know we don't need much guard value, but he's no one's playing him.
Yeah, I wouldn't mind getting there on FanDuel where he's a little cheaper. On DraftKings, it's kind of tough just with limited minutes.
Yep, that's true. He's coming off the bench, as is Alvarado. They tend to cut into each other a little bit. So one more game here, then we'll get to chat, do a quick dummy. Let Smitty get out of here because he's on back-to-back duty tonight, much like a lot of these teams on this slate. But we got the Knicks here taking on the Lakers in prime time. Definitely a game I think both these teams had circled. Looking at the injury report, Precious, OG, both questionable. Tyler Kolek and Mitchell Robinson questionable as well. So yeah, this team is a little bit banged up in the front court. It's good to see Cat's not on the injury report though. He's been questionable a lot of the time these past few weeks. Playing kind of hurt, I think. And again, the Lakers have been playing much better. To Chuck's point, I think yesterday, or maybe it was with me the day before, Jackson Hayes has been really good defensively, which is somewhat shocking. But yeah, I think it's enough for me to prefer Sengun over Towns. I'm thinking Towns is still rated higher in the model. Yeah, by about zero point 0.6. But you're getting Sengun for a little bit of a discount. I don't mind mixing in Towns for the same reasons we like Sengun. I just think he's underowned given his upside. Kind of same deal with Jalen Brunson. Hasn't really been getting over that 50-point mark consistently. But if no one's going to play him, some of these other guards dud. You could see him in optimal lineups. That wouldn't surprise anyone at all. If OG is out, I think it could help someone like McBride off the bench. If both OG and Precious are out, I think McBride is like a really sneaky value play. I want to get some exposure exposure to. But right now, the field not getting to many Knicks. I understand it. Pretty high total, though, on a tight spread. Smitty, how are you handling New York here?
Yeah, it kind of sucks because McBride would he would compete with some of these other values on the slate. Like he's near the same price as TJ McConnell, and I'd rather play McBride just because he's going to get the minutes. The ceiling's still there, but it's a really risky play. I still don't mind doing it though. But for me, it's mainly just Towns on this team. I think, like you mentioned, just sticking with the pay up center to be contrarian. I think going to Towns makes sense here. This is probably a game he gets up for against the Lakers.
Yeah, he did have a really bad game last time out against the Lakers. That was on February 1st, though. I think they still had AD, so don't want to look too deeply into that. Over on the Lakers side of things, I know they're getting Austin Reeves back tonight, or at least they should be. Luca probable, LeBron probable, so that's good. We don't have to wait and speculate on if they're going to be in or not. That would have been kind of a nightmare with the 2 hour gap there. Rui's still out though, no Maxi Kleber, and yeah, Reeves not even questionable. He's probable. So I think LeBron looks great. Little bit more expensive than he has been lately. The price has climbed over 10K on both sides, but again, forward one of the tougher positions on this slate to fill. I'm fine getting to LeBron. Luca's Luca. The ceiling's always going to be there. Um, but yeah, I don't know. I think it's just a little bit easier to afford LeBron knowing that he is 1K cheaper. I'm fine with either of these guys. Probably wouldn't want them in the same lineup. I don't think it would be very easy to build that anyway. Reeves being back could cut into their upside slightly. At the same time, I do think Reeves is a viable play. Sub 8K, if you're not getting to the others, it's kind of a pivot. Maybe he just has a really great game. You're getting some leverage in that way. Those are the three I have interest in. I know Jackson Hayes is coming off an awesome game. But that came in only 23 minutes. I don't think we can really count on that type of ceiling from him consistently. He was 8 for 8 from the field, which is definitely different for him. 10 rebounds, yeah, 19 real points. He was outstanding. So I don't mind maybe mixing him in, especially if you're playing like a late slate. And I will say this, if you're trying to play McBride and he ends up out, if you have a few extra dollars, maybe you could go to someone like Connect or Gabe Vincent. But with Reeves back, they're both super risky. For me, it's mostly just LeBron and Luca. But Smitty, how are you handling the Lakers?
Yeah, that's where I'm at too. I think it's mainly just LeBron and Luca. Reeves' price is kind of high still. I don't mind GPP shots there, but yeah, I prefer LeBron just because of the forward position. His salary fits better, especially on FanDuel. He kind of makes things work there. So I should be playing a lot of LeBron.
Yep, I'm with it, man. Just a little pivot here on FanDuel I want to bring up. 11% of the field getting to Finney Smith. He's been terrible. Jared Vanderbilt has actually been much better points per minute. He's going to come off the bench. He's not going to play nearly as many minutes. But if you're looking for some leverage, maybe on the late slate, I don't mind maybe going to Vanderbilt over Finney Smith. The model likes him better. 0% owned on both sites. Not someone I'm really prioritizing at all on the main slate. But again, if you're looking for a little bit of leverage there, I think it's a decent spot to go. Quick look at the chat, then we'll get a dummy build in. Brunson or Cat for the late night hammers, Smitty? Who you prefer of the two? I think you said Cat, right?
Yeah, Cat.
Yeah, I think just the way kind of lineups are being built, a lot of the values at guard, so it's just easy to get the cat. And he's low on him too. Any De Silva love with no Isaac, I think that's a no for me because they have Wagner and Bonchero available. De Silva has been one of the first guys off the bench, played pretty well against Toronto, but for me, it's a no.
Yeah, not for me either.
Yeah, decent player, just tough to trust him, even with a couple of guys out. Jerry's saying the dummy build from last night, cash big time. Let's duplicate that in just a minute, guys. Um, with all the really good value that opened up, just now Grimes doesn't seem like a good play. Let me refresh the model because again, we were waiting on. Uh, laughing at the next comment, we were waiting on some of this indie stuff. I'm guessing McConnell pops. Yeah, so McConnell's way up there now, getting tons of love. Nemhard as well. Nemhard's much lower owned still than TJ. I trust Nemhard much more, again, mostly because of the minutes. McConnell's great, though. I think all four of these guards look excellent. It's going to be tough to play all four. I don't even know if it's possible. I think on FanDuel you can because Nemhard and White have shooting guard eligibility, but you're going to be really, really chalky there. But yeah, no surprise at all. These guys are jolting towards the top of the model. Naismith way up there as well. So if you're kind of desperate for forward value, don't mind mixing him in. Power saying going to Towns. with the pun saying, I see you, Smitty Power, always dropping the puns in chat, rubbing off on our Smitty here, which is hilarious. We're saying, what about Buzelis? They had a few guys out last game, right? Like
Yeah.
Giddy and Herder were out. That's why Buzelis had that game. I don't think I could go back to him necessarily. He has some upside. You're fine as like a last piece in, but especially with that being the first game that locks, not someone I'd be prioritizing. Smitty, how about you?
Yeah, same here. No Buzelis right now. I wouldn't care if he showed up in like a lineup or two as a pivot, but definitely not a priority.
I'm with it. Mike, yeah, Cole Anthony with Suggs out's fine. It's just we have Pritchard, White, McConnell, Nemhard, kind of tough to get to. And I like Jared Butler too still. He's risky, but definitely has upside. Smitty, you get into any Cole Anthony? I know we liked him initially, but there's so many good guards now. I think it's tough.
No, he's okay as a GPP play, but I'm probably not going to get there.
Yep. ZA asking if we can sort by DK ownership. We did just refresh the model. Quick check here. Pritchard, McConnell, Siakam, Tatum, Caro, Butler. So, yeah, so one of these guards is going to be lower owned than we're projecting, I think. FanDuel, pretty much the same. But yeah, feel free to pause the screen, guys, if you need to. But again, the model's updating in real time as lineups come out, as news change, or as news comes out, things are going to change. So, still, even with that being shared, you're probably going to want to get behind the paywall if you can. Again, one of the best deals in the industry. Smitty, where are we starting tonight? Is it Pritchard? I mean, which of
Yeah.
these guards are your favorite?
For me, it's Pritchard and Nemhard.
I'm with you. Those are my two favorites as well. That's where I'm starting. So let me ask you this. Next, would you go to McConnell or White? Obviously, they're priced dramatically different.
I'd
Tough.
rather play White, I think.
Okay. I'm with you, man. And yeah, the field always gets to McConnell. He's another one of these guys that I always think is overowned because of the minutes, but he tends to find a way to get there. So it's a little scary. I like the start of this, though. I think the way we were going to get different was to try to pay up at center. You want to go Sengun?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. I think we probably want some Philly, maybe Grimes or Oubre. You have a preference? Should we try to force both, or what are you thinking?
Um, I like. That's hard. I think Grimes.
Yeah, Grimes feels a little safer. I do like both though,
Yeah,
for what it's worth.
I think in larger field tournaments, I'd lean Oubre though.
Yeah, the thing I'm realizing right now is Grimes no longer has forward eligibility, so he's kind of
Ah,
tougher for that reason, which
yeah, that's
sucks.
true.
So sitting here, I'm going to put in Oubre, but I will say I do prefer Grimes if you're fine using a guard spot. But I think the ownership that we're projecting could change a little bit, so just keep that in mind. Power forward, we're left with around 5,600 per.
Can we go
Uh,
Palo, or is that too much?
I mean, I love it. Might be too much. If
Go
we go,
Jared Butler.
yeah,
Yeah,
we're on the same page here. 4,400 for a forward. I think there's something to
got to
like.
be somebody.
Ricochet?
Ricochet. Yeah.
Boom. There it is. So these two bottom plays a little bit more tournament oriented. At the same time, this is a really good lineup. So you can pay down at center, maybe upgrade these spots if you're playing cash, but I like what we're doing here. One last look at chat. I think we're good to go. So Smitty, let you get right out of here right on time. You're about to be in the Discord. So once again, everyone, appreciate you being here. Never really plugged the Twitters, but our Twitters are in the description too. If you guys want to follow us, definitely like the video, subscribe to the channel, sign up, get behind the paywall. I know some of our regulars here on the YouTube show have been joining in. Shouts out to Heath. I see you in there. A few of you guys definitely appreciate it. As always, keep an eye on lineups, keep an eye on news. Smitty, any last thoughts before we get out of here?
No, should be good.
Hey, you heard the man. Let's crush it tonight, guys. Smitty on fire. Let's all try to catch up to him here. Once again, take care, everyone. Have a great night.